gonna shove it.
Yeah!
He's gonna shove it.
Alright, welcome back. I'm sorry that I've been away for so long. Life has its way of knocking you down, but hopefully today I'll be on the rise. Not because of your girl, but because we'll be watching the latest TNA pay-per-view, Rebellion. Live from Palms Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, the same place as their last pay-per-view. And that didn't exactly turn out well. Let's hope we can make it through this show without any horrible production problems ruining the show. Tommy Dreamer is now the man running the show, so it'll be interesting to see if much has changed. I was almost mortified when the Little Rascals start the pre-show, but this is the pre-show and they aren't important. They face Leon Slater, who was signed at the start of the year from England, and he teams with ABC. It's kind of a let's just throw all the cruiserweights in a big spot kind of match. The Rascals hit a combo of about 10 moves in a row, but Leon Slater still kicks out. It's pretty ridiculous. This gets a weary "this is awesome" chant from the crowd. We get the standard let's hit all the dives to the outside spot. There is a pretty cool triple team move from the Rascals, quickly followed by an insane cutter out of the ring. The Rascals keep going with dives into the ring, when one of them steals Jeff Hardy's Swanton Bomb.
Dude, I was watching the TNA Rebellion show the other day, man, and this dude, Zachary Wentz, he stole my Swanton Bomb finishing maneuver, man, but it didn't finish. Man, I'm going back to Carolina, and I'm going to tell my stoner friend Shannon all about you, Wentz, man.
Anyway, there's about 1 million cutters in this match. It's getting really old. Leon Slater, the boy from Bradford, hits a Swanton 450 for the win. A fun spot match with a couple of really nice spots, but ultimately too much repetition with cutters. I guess it got the crowd ready for the show ahead of them. Top Dollar and his entourage have an interesting pre-match interview. It seems Rich Swann has had a much needed character overhaul. We're all about our cash, we're all about our class, and I'm definitely going to whip your ass. It was the most interested I've been in Rich Swann for years. But before we can find out where all that's heading, it's a title match. The Digital Media Championship, which is a pretty pointless belt, regularly defended on pay-per-view pre-shows. Laredo Kid challenges for the belt that belongs to Crazy Steve. It's alright, but nothing anybody's going to remember in the morning. Laredo Kid wins with the Laredo Fly, and I'm sure winning this title will mean nothing, as it's not a belt which has been used like it means anything in the past. Talking of belts that don't mean a lot, the Knockouts tag titles are also on the line. 2 witches try to take the belts off another 2 witches. Who will win? Who will prevail? Who cares? It's all the same. I do admittedly feel bad for Dani Luna because she looks like she's better than this. She's young, she has a great look because she looks like a real powerhouse, but not to the point where she looks like a chemical catastrophe. It's fine when she's in there, but she makes a hot tag to Jody Fret and the crowd just don't care. The hot tag looks bad and she isn't very likeable. Fret hits a flip dive out of the ring and one old moron in the crowd goes nuts for it. Spitfire almost botched a double powerbomb on the Big Witch, and then they beat Rosemary with a wacky move. Then Masha Slamovich walks out for Chain along with Little Miss Piss. They will be the next tag team challengers, and still no one will care because it's just random people thrown together. That's the pre-show, and fortunately, no production problems so far. The first match on the main show is about to start when some dorks walk out with signs. They're screaming that the title match for the X Division belt won't be happening. The commentators rightfully ask, who are these idiots? They're cutting a promo on Jake something being in the X Division as he apparently shouldn't qualify. I'm not even sure what the qualifications even are for the X Division anymore. Hillbilly, Cody Deaner. God, why is this guy still in the company? He makes his way out. Deaner says it's all about the people. Hang on, wasn't this guy a psychopath faction leader just 5 minutes ago? Then his mic feed keeps cutting out. What a weird start to the show. After a very long time, Deaner decides to beat up the geeks. What a jarring character change for this guy. DJ Ashburr plays the national anthem on his little guitar. Here we are then, the opener. Jake Something challenges for the X Division title belonging to Mustafa Ali. He gets a big entrance, pulling up to the arena in an SUV of his own security. I appreciate the effort being put into this. It makes the show feel more big time, which is very important as they're a very long way behind the competition. Ali has been on a real tear and hasn't lost a match in 8 months. As you would expect, the story of this match is that Jake Something is stronger than his opponent. He does move with somewhat explosiveness, which is kind of X Division like. Ali keeps drop kicking him, but Something just won't go down, and then he turns Ali inside out with a clothesline. Something also launches him out the ring. Nice move as there's a chase on the outside and Ali skillfully slides through the ring and catches Something with a DDT to the outside. He does a rolling neckbreaker in the ring and one on the ramp for good measure. Ali just seems to slip out of everything and almost wins with the big DDT in the centre of the ring. He lands a big standing moonsault which is sort of caught by something, but nothing really happens. Moments later he holds onto a head scissors and lands a powerbomb. The power moves continue with a shock treatment backbreaker. This guy was actually trained by the Monster Abyss, so it makes sense. Ali counters his next move and sort of German suplexes something on the ring apron. The ref is distracted as a bunch of Secret Service men roll something into the ring. Ali hits the 450, but surprisingly that is not the finish. Jake Something fires up like Batista and he takes out the Secret Squad with a special dive. He punches Ali out of thin air and asks the audience what his name is. He hits the black hole slam, but Ali has his feet on the ropes. Something starts seeing red and crashes into the ring pole, which leads to the finish of Ali rolling him up. It was fine, but I don't see why Jake Something was even in this position. It's not about weight limits, it's about no limits. But does Jake Something really represent no limits? The next match is Rich Swann versus Joe Hendry. Basically, Swann got tired of being a jobber every night and getting his ass kicked, and Top Dollar was the only man who checked in on him. Rich Swann is a former TNA Heavyweight Champion. It seems like some random trivia question. They use AI here to make Swann and Top Dollar perform Joe Hendry's entrance music. The crowd are finally awake and they're loving this man Joe Hendry. So it's another big man versus little man matchup. Hendry hits a very early press slam. The match heads out the ring where Hendry is sent into the steps. Rich Swann crushes Hendry's eyelid into the steps. We also have Top Dollar taking cheap shots on the outside. It goes on like this for a very long time until Hendry powers him up with a suplex. Swann lands on his face after a back body drop. Top Dollar then tries to hit Hendry with a chain when a fellow football player stops him. This guy is an absolute beast. They square up to each other in the ring. I actually like how they did this because they suckered me in, and I admit I didn't see this finish coming. The whole thing was just a distraction and the football player is actually on Swann's side. He flattens Hendry and Swann wins with a frog splash. Excellent ending to a low-key matchup. A young lady twerks on Joe Hendry and it ends. I'm on board with this crew. I actually believe all these self-obsessed morons would be friends in real life. Next up is a Full Metal Mayhem match. Frankie Kazarian is basically jealous of the fact that Eric Young has won world titles and he hasn't, so he turned heel on him. Kazarian uses the line that you now have permission to hate me. I like how he reused his previous catchphrase from his Bad Influence days. Now me personally, I don't view either of these guys as more important part of TNA history than the other. They're both equally important, both solid B-tier players, but they are players that TNA need at this point in their history. Anyway, the match starts, and for ages they tease that someone is going through the table, but nobody does. Kaz hits a leg drop and a slingshot DDT. He then realises he's supposed to be a new character, so he yells, "Shut up and acknowledge me as your king." The ladder is introduced to Eric's face. Kaz misses the leg drop and smashes his ass into the ladder. Randomly, Janice is here and she's in Eric's hand. They take turns shoving each other's head towards the spikes. Nobody can land a shot with this thing. All of that makes us forget about the table waiting on the outside as Kaz spears Eric Young off the apron and through the table. Good stuff, well thought out spot, I forgot the table was there. The match continues with Eric almost winning from a Death Valley driver. Kaz realises he's losing, so he starts using a chain on Eric Young. He also puts on a steel chain chicken wing in the top rope. Eric fights it off with a throw and a top rope elbow to a trash can. Kazarian is still kicking out. The big moves continue with Kaz nailing an Unprettier on the ladder. Another fight on the top rope leads to Kaz hitting a flux capacitator through the table, only just hitting it, and that's how the match ends. Very, very underwhelming. And that's not saying it was bad, I just hoped for an extra gear. They barely even used the ladder. In the back we have an interview with Dolph Ziggler. He's hyped for his world title match tonight and he vows to take TNA into the future as their new champion. Steve Macklin makes an unscheduled appearance. Another man who is a former TNA World Champion. More trivia questions. He says he's just been given a new contract. He demands a match right now or he won't be signing the contract. Santino Marella makes his way out to cheesy cop music from the 80s. He is the TNA general manager. Santino calls him a lucky son of a gun because there's someone in the back who's just signed a TNA contract. The crowd gasp with shock. Who could this possibly be? The mystery moron turns out to be the returning Santanna. That's sick for me. I love this guy's run in LAX. He enters through the crowd and they're happy to see this guy. Wow, a TNA mystery announcement which didn't suck. I'm surprised. Santanna starts with a big flip dive out the ring. Macklin stops him with help from the ring pole and the ring apron. In the ring, Steve Macklin hits a backbreaker for a 2. Santana comes back with a rolling cutter. They exchange blows until Santana catches him and hits a beautiful Death Valley driver. Macklin hits a huge knee to the noggin and a diving headbutt for a 2. A Michinoku driver doesn't get the job done for Macklin either. It really is pure dominance, but no matter what move he uses, he can't get the JOB done. Then Santana randomly hits one discus clothesline and it ends the match. Okay, another middle of the road match. I like this guy Santana, but does anyone really want to see this guy as a singles? I don't know, I've always seen him as a tag guy, but I'm happy he's on the roster now, they can do something with him. Up next, an Eddie Slapnut Edwards promo. He's looking greasier than ever. The System have a tag title shot tonight. Moose says he's going to retain his world title tonight because he has a special surprise up his sleeve. The Predator, John Abraham. So I guess a football player is going to win him this wrestling match. Hey, why not? It worked for Rich Swann earlier on. Speedball, Mike Bailey and Trent Seven are the challengers for the tag titles. I love all these random X Division matches thrown together as tag teams. It really makes me want to watch this match. It doesn't help that the champions are Slapnut Edwards and the most professional surfer Brian Myers. I was really bored and the only thing that got my attention was the commentary team comparing the System to Main Event Mafia and Immortal. Let me ask you, how are the System like those two groups? They had names like Perk Angle, Steiner, Hogan and the Stinger. The System have Slapnut Edwards and a failed surfer and a woman who consistently looks like she's covered in piss. These two things are not the same. When Brian Myers kicked out the Shooting Star Press, I was done. I just didn't want to watch anymore. There's about 50 fake finishes in this match. It's like 4 wrestlers doing this incredible series of moves time and time again, and then you realise it's just 4 random guys without much of a story. I just find it hard to enjoy their work, but I do actually think a lot of people will love this match. I truly do. But I try and give you a different perspective here. It's not my personal style. Slapnuts wins with the Boston Knee Party, a good match which just wasn't for me. Fortunately, the next match is for me, because it's going to be the third in a series of matches between Hammerstone and Josh Alexander. They are one apiece. I loved the first exchange, but the second match just didn't quite cut it for me. Since then, Hammerstone has gone full heel and he's been beating people up. Now they will be having a last man standing match. Very early into the match, the Hammer hits a chokeslam with Josh getting up at about 4. Hammerstone no-sells a German suplex, but Josh no-sells on an overhead belly to belly. Really hard hitting start. Alexander dumps Hammerstone on the ring apron, which he can't no-sell. He makes it back to his feet at 6. And what a way to get back to his feet, because he slams Alexander off the top to the ring apron. Later into the match, Josh starts zeroing in on his leg, which almost makes Hammerstone cry into his nappy. Hammer only gets some rest when he smacks out Josh with his headgear. Josh is busted open. We must be getting close to the finish, as Josh only gets up at 9 from this. Hammer won't give him a break as he hits the sack of shit. Hammer breaks up the ref's count to inflict more punishment, and that appears to be booting his head into the ring pole. Josh still beats the 10 count. Hammer moves on to using a torture rack and dumping Josh to the mat. Josh starts laughing as he makes it up again. Hammer is livid and he boots his head off. Suddenly, Josh pops a perk and locks on the ankle lock. When that doesn't get the job done, Josh hits a crossbody and takes a breather. Josh Alexander pulls out a bag of thumbtacks in front of the Hammer. He wants to slam Hammer off the top rope into them, but he can't manage it, and instead Hammer hits his insane nightmare pendulum into the tacks. Hammerstone comically screams and pulls them out of his ass, almost giving new meaning to the name Don't Look at My Ass. Surely that has to be the 10 count. No, Josh is back on his feet on the outside at 9. Hammerstone is livid and drags him up the ramp. Alexander Hammerstone seemingly has a change of heart as he grabs Josh's headgear and hits him in the head. All of that seems to wake Josh up, who hits a suplex on the entrance ramp. Josh ain't done and he hits his C4 spike on the stage. Wow, and that's it. Josh Alexander wins. Really enjoyable match, but man, I wish the Hammer had won, but you don't always get what you want. In the back, the squid, Jonathan Gresham, seems to be turning into an actual squid as his ink is squirting out of control. The squid returns to TNA soon. Ash by Elegance is still doing a watching the match gimmick. Dana Brooke is currently undefeated in TNA. The Knockouts title match will see Steph DeLander challenge him for the Knockouts title belonging to Jordan Grace. DeLander is the former Persian Parasite from NXT. Since those days, she's become a hardcore wrestler and seems to be a big fan of Rhea Ripley. She's attached herself to Matt Cardona to try and boost her credentials, and he even interfered to help her become the #1 contender. There was a pretty good segment where they did a contract signing on Impact where the girls showed a bit of attitude swearing at each other. Royden Grace is 3 months into her reign here. This referee looks like he has real problems. I was concerned about him. He looked like he'd rob your nan and sell her for crack. He's probably thinking, where can I pawn this title belt? There's a big size advantage for Delanda. Very early into the match, Grace takes a scary dive to the outside. Delanda sort of gives her a TKO into the ring. She also hits the snake eyes into the big boot, shades of Mean Mark. She carries on with a suplex for a 2. Pretty quickly the match turns into a mess as the good hands cause a distraction and the title belt ends up in the ring. Steph almost smacks the ref out of a belt shot before Grace hits him by mistake. This is a ref bump. Delanda suplexes Grace and decks her with the title belt, but no ref. The good hands take a referee's shirt, and for some reason they believe that this officially makes them referees. They're about to count the 3 when the lights go out and PCO is in the ring. He kills the good hands with a double chokeslam. He's about to chokeslam Steph when Connor the Rat saves her. He turns around to see Grace squaring up to him. Grace smacks him in the nutsack before the good hands return. Man, this title match sucks Sonny Siaki's ass. The Rat snaps her neck when the lights go out again. Now Sami Callihan is back in the ring. It's a lukewarm reaction to his TNA return. He takes out the good hands again and sends Steph Delanda back into the ring. Grace wins with the needle driver. Probably the most disappointing knockouts match I've seen in a while. So much interference and no focus on the match itself. And as far as Sami Callihan returning, I like him. He's head and shoulders above most of the roster for character work. But there really isn't much you can do with him. He's done it all and he looked well past it by the end of his last TNA stay. I don't know if this is a sensible hiring. Just the main event left. Dolph Ziggler gets his first shot at the TNA World title since joining in January. He's got his brother and father in attendance. The champion has been Moose since January. It's Moose with the first big move as he catches Dolph's dive and drops him on the ring apron. Nemeth comes back with a Hurricanrana on the ramp and a missile dropkick back into the ring. The DDT gets Zolf for 2. Moose has his Slapnut crew sent to the back, which is the right decision considering how much of a mess the previous match was. All that distraction leads to Dolph hitting a super kick for a 2. Dolph now works a sleeper hold for a while until Moose gets him off by squashing him by diving back off the second rope. The fight heads out to the ramp again where Dolph hits a diving famouser. The dives continue with a diving elbow drop off the apron and a diving elbow off the top rope. Moose is still kicking out. He uses his gigantic meathead to slow Dolph down and hits a sky high from the top. We get a lovely exchange of pinfalls now until Moose just says screw it and powerbombs the life out of him. They head up the ramp yet again where Moose powerbombs Dolph on the ramp, which almost disrupts the pay-per-view as lights fall off the stage. Back in the ring, Moose botches his middle rope moonsault and falls on his head. They quickly move on with Dolph hitting a leg lariat. It looks like there's another botch as moves are exchanged and Dolph hits a famouser for a 2. Dolph continues to come close for spear. Then he awkwardly hesitates on a super kick which allows Moose to get up and hit his spear for the 3. That seemed a bit too easy. Am I surprised they didn't put the title on Dolph? Yeah, sure, but it was probably the right decision. He's an ex-WWE guy and they seem to have learned from their past mistakes with just shoving the title on the next WWE guy. The Slapnuts crew return to the ramp to celebrate when yet again the lights go out. A weird video package plays, and broken Matt Hardy has returned to TNA. He gives Moose a twist of fate, and the fans all join in with him shouting delete. Are we looking at the next TNA World Champion? The show ends. So in the end, it was a middle-of-the-road kind of show with no remarkable matches. If anything, they were mostly solid, and only really one bad match, which was the Knockouts match. It feels like this show was more about shocking returns and not so much about the matches. The surprises were pretty good, but if you look past them, there's nothing to write home about. TNA Rebellion 2024 gets a solid 5.5 out of 10. Their roster is looking okay at this point, and as far as Tommy Dreamer's booking, I didn't see any drastic changes from the previous regime. Maybe it was a bit more entertainment based, and if you don't agree with that, I'll chop you in half and make you two-faced.